friends, welcome back. Today I will continue my discussion pertaining to personality. In the previous discussion we talked about the definition of personality, factors determining personality in terms of heredity and environment, and we also discussed about some frameworks in terms of tools such as MBTI or Myers-Briggs type indicator. Today I will talk about another personality framework or tool titled as the Big Personality Model. This is one of the most widely used framework which is used for assessment of personality, especially at workplaces. This model is also known as the 5-factor model of personality or the OCEAN model. OCEAN model is an acronym based on the personality traits that this model measures. This model was developed by Goldberg initially, and the basic tenet of this Big 5 personality model is based on psychological trait theory, which states that when an individual exhibits some distinctive and consistent patterns of behavior in similar situations, then that trait becomes permanent in nature and becomes the part of an individual's personality. Therefore, the Big 5 personality model is based on 5 personality traits that aims to measure within an individual. They are openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness and neuroticism, and this acronym also follows the same. OCEAN is for openness, C is for conscientiousness, E for extraversion, A for agreeableness and N for neuroticism. So, these traits are believed to be relatively stable throughout an individual's lifetime. As I have already discussed in the previous lecture that with the role of heredity and environment, some traits are so much nurtured in an individual's day-to-day life based on biological factor or on environmental factor. When they are in interplay, then actually they become so permanent in nature that one can define an individual's personality. So, this theory encompasses most of the significant variations in human personality. So, let us go into more detail about this model based on the traits that it aims to measure. The first is extraversion. It is a personality dimension describing someone who is sociable, gregarious and assertive. This dimension captures a comfort level with relationships, whereas introverts tend to be reserved, timid, quiet or slow moving, and they would not approach people for any further interaction or communication. This is a common notion to understand people, that who are extroverts and who are introverts. So, extroverts are more sociable, they are more approachable to people and to themselves also, they are happy going, they are gregarious and they are more assertive. They in fact have the tendency to take the charge of the task. Agreeableness is another dimension that measures under this model is agreeableness. This is a personality dimension that describes someone who is good natured, cooperative, compliant and trusting. The agreeable dimension refers to an individual's propensity to defer to others. Defer to others means that the person is very much compliant or obedient to others. He can give more priority to the other person's needs and desires. Whereas, on the other hand, if a person is highly agreeable, he is more cooperative, warm and trusting, and people who score low on agreeableness are cold, disagreeable and antagonist. That means they can oppose people to any extent. The other is conscientiousness. This is a personality dimension that describes someone who is responsible, dependable, persistent and organized. They are more conscious and concerned about their own discipline. This dimension is a measure of reliability. Those who score low on this dimension are easily distracted, disorganized and unreliable. We cannot depend on that person. For example, an employee who is very much conscious about reaching the workplace on time, then that reflects an individual's trait that he is trusting and dependable as he is maintaining his own discipline. So, these are the features of being highly conscious in its own way. The other is emotional stability. This is a personality dimension that characterizes someone as calm, self-confident, secure in comparison to who are nervous, depressed or insecure, again in a negative pattern. The emotional stability dimension is often labeled too as converse to neuroticism, which taps a person's ability to withstand stress. Those with highly negative scores tend to be nervous, anxious, depressed and insecure. Emotional stability and neuroticism are opposite to each other and they go hand in hand. Person with high emotional stability has very much control on their emotions, and most importantly they have the competence to understand the emotions of the other person at the same time. Whereas person who is neurotic, who is more anxious, who is already unable to understand or control his own emotions, can never have that ability to understand the emotions of the other person. So, this is the difference between being emotionally stable or neurotic, and neuroticism as being part of this model. They also talk about depression and insecurity. Insecurity, it can be about unknown fears or it can be about an inability to handle some uncertainty, and how they tend to fail to understand or control or navigate through adverse situation. And the other is openness to experience. This dimension characterizes someone in terms of imagination, sensitivity and curiosity. The openness to experience dimension addresses range of interest and fascination with novelty. Those at the other end of the category are conventional and find comfort in the familiar. It includes the ability to think outside of the box. So, person who is more open to experience is more innovative. He will bring more ideas on the table to grow. They are more prone to adapt changes in the situation, whereas a person who is scoring low on this dimension, they prefer to stick to their traditional styles and they will not like to expand their or push their boundaries. They are more conventional and comfortable in their traditional work styles, whereas person who is scoring high in openness to experience, they are more innovative and most importantly they think out of the box. That means it fosters creativity and innovation and they are more adaptable to change. So, these are the 5 traits which constitutes as the big 5 personality model. The next is how we are going to measure this. So, each trait represents a continuum. Individuals can fall anywhere on the continuum for each trait. So, basically it is a questionnaire based model and the person can fall on a scale maybe 1 to 5 or 1 to 7, and that will define the degree to what extent the person is extrovert or introvert or openness to experience or not, or to emotional stability to neuroticism. The point is that if on the scale the person who is scoring high on neuroticism will exhibit more depression, emotional instability or maybe full of shame or doubt, whereas the person who is scoring low, he is more fearless, he has less doubt on himself, whereas in extraversion the person who scores high. Now, the point is even for neuroticism, be it high or low, at both the ends it has negative extremes. Even it is high, then also it is not conducive to the employee or to the organization, and if it is low also, then also it is not conducive to the oneself or to the organization. Whereas, if the person who is extrovert and scoring high, then the person seeks excitement in his job and they also seek attention because they are more gregarious and sociable. Whereas, if they are scoring low, they exhibit social withdrawal and detachment or coldness from the other persons or social environment. Again, a person who is scoring high on openness, they have more creative thinking and they sometimes become very eccentric in its own way, that they have a very weird or absurd thought process which finds lot of difficulty to execute, or the other person will also find it very difficult to understand that creativity. Person who is scoring low will find himself to be very inflexible and close minded or traditional, who is more comfortable within his own world and would not prefer to expand his boundaries. Person who is scoring high on agreeableness is more submissive, he is more compliant, more obedient, he is more selfless and gullibility is there, whereas the person who is scoring low will exhibit deceitfulness, more manipulation and more callousness. So, callousness means more shrewdness in his behavior. Person who is high on conscientiousness will seek for more perfection, he will engage in helping other people, and more of it he will be labeled as a workaholic, in the sense that he is giving more time to his work, whereas the person who is scoring low is more distracted, tends to exhibit more irresponsibility towards his work, and maybe he is more rash towards other people while interacting at workplace. So, this is a continuum in the sense that there is a degree of these traits, but all these 5 traits will vary in the degree, high or low. It is very difficult to find any one personality where we are just labeling him or her as neurotic or extrovert, but all the tints of these traits will definitely exist. The only difference is that people will differ in their degree. So, these are the individuals are ranked on a scale between the two extreme ends of 5 broad dimensions, that is closed and open. For example, openness, they are more open or less open, they are spontaneous or conscious. For extroversion, they are introverted or extroverted, hostile or agreeable, stable or neurotic. So, the more the degree is moving towards the other end, the more the person is highlighting those traits in his own behavior. So, this is again a way to consider it that these traits are in continuum. They are fluctuating and there is a continuous basis of reflection of these behaviors from situation to situation. Alright. Next comes that how these people, when score high or low, how they are being perceived by the other person. So, the person who is more open to experience is more curious, imaginative, creative and open to try new things. They are more unconventional, whereas person who is low is more predictable in the sense that anybody would understand that the person will not change. The person will not push his boundaries, the person will not make efforts to enhance his performances based on new changes that can be incorporated in his own day-to-day professional life. He is not very imaginative, he will not welcome change, he prefers routine and is a traditional person in performing his job. Whereas, conscientious person who is highly competent, organized, more responsible and he is more achievement oriented. Whereas, person who is scoring low is considered as or perceived as incompetent, he is more disorganized, careless, procrastinates, indisciplined and impulsive. Procrastinates here means that he will tend to delay things to a larger extent. Maybe we will do it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, next month or maybe after 2 months. So, this is procrastination. So, these are the behavioral traits of an individual who exhibit any personality trait at high or low extremes. Extroversion, people are more sociable, they are more energized by social interaction, excitement and attention and enjoys being the center of attention and they are more outgoing. Whereas, person who is low will prefer solitude, they are much more tired or exhausted. While avoiding social interaction, they dislike being center of attention and they are more reserved. They are very slow moving also. People will also find difficult to approach such introverts. So, this creates a lot of communication gap among people. So, these are the behavioral traits that an individual will exhibit at even workplaces. Agreeableness, scoring high, the person will exhibit trustworthiness, very much straightforwardness, they are more altruistic. They will prefer, they are more eager to help their co-workers in completing their task irrespective knowing that they will not receive any recognition from the organization, but still they engage in such kind of productive behaviors. They are more compliant, they are more sympathetic and most important they empathize as well, while understanding the other person's situation and then giving them more support to overcome those problems. Person who is scoring low is more skeptical, more demanding, stubborn and unsympathetic. They do not care about how other people feel. That means they are completely opposite. They would not help other people. They will not try to empathize with the other person who has experienced some problem at workplaces and they are more manipulative in their own way. And person who is high in neuroticism, they are more anxious, they are more hostile, they are irritable, they experience a lot of stress, they are shy, they are vulnerable and experiences dramatic shifts in mood. This is high. So, this can be more dangerous at workplaces, whereas the person who is also low, again that also becomes very dangerous at workplaces because they are not much concerned about their co-workers or the organization, they are more calm and cold. They are emotionally not stable, they are confident, they are resilient, they rarely feel sadness or depressed. The point is that even if they are confident, maybe they are not sure about the other person or the situations. So, this type of low neuroticism can also be not conducive to the workplaces, while they are not concerned with the external world. So, these are the big 5 personality models where people are more likely to be effective leader in the sense. Now, how these big 5 personality models tend to be more effective at workplaces based on the behavioral work dispositions. So, if we talk about any employee who is open to experience, they are more likely to be effective leader and more comfortable with ambiguity and cope better with changes and are more adaptable. That we already have discussed, but what are the typical behavioral traits that these employees exhibit? So, how we can understand these personality traits at workplace, that is a main concern. So, they also experience less work family conflict because they are more, since they are indulging in better and positive changes, they find more solutions to their problems. Because there is more creativity, they find better solutions or alternative solutions to overcome any problem. The other is conscientiousness. People tend to be more likely to engage in citizenship behaviors and less likely to engage in counterproductive work behaviors, such as sabotaging the property of the organization, tarnishing the image of their co-workers by spreading malicious rumors about their co-workers, or engaging in citizenship behaviors while helping others and not worrying about whether they will be recognized for their efforts or not. So, like any other trait, conscious people also have some pitfalls. What if they are scoring extremely high on being conscious, they become too deliberate and perfectionist and resulting diminished performance and happiness. Too much of into the job, when they try to get maximum perfection to their work, they will also find difficulty in stabilizing themselves in whatever they have done, and they are not satisfied and happy with what they have performed. So, every extreme of any behavioral trait can also have its negative impact. So has the conscientiousness. It has certain pitfalls where the person is very much into deliberation, into perfection, and that leads to unhappiness and diminished performance. Next is agreeableness at work. People high on this trait perform well in interpersonal oriented jobs such as customer service. They experience less work family conflict and engage in OCBs. Now, this type of personality trait one can fit well in customer service jobs or any sales executive job, where they are more into dealing with the public and how they tend to defer or to submit themselves to the demands of the customer and how they can fulfill those demands. So, this is a better understanding of this trait, that which trait is best fit for a particular job. The other is extraversion. Extroverts perform better jobs with significant interpersonal attraction. They are socially dominant and take charge, and their strong prediction of leadership emergence, and they have reduced burnout. So, they have solutions to their problems while approaching people. They experience good positive changes and they find solutions to their problems. They are more sociable, they are more gregarious, they are more approachable. So, they can also take up any leadership position. So, these kind of traits are much well deserving for any leadership position, but at the same time people who are scoring high at this dimension can be little bit different in terms of egoistic or too dominating, that can be disadvantageous to their job. So, the point is that they tend to become so dominating that they will not like to listen no from the other person at the same time. So, these are the pitfalls of being highly extroverts. Next comes that traits that matter most to business success at buyout companies. That means, what are those positive personality traits that are preferable for a particular job? They are most important: persistence, attention to detail, efficiency, analytical skills, and setting high standards. Now, the point is, if we try to fit in those personality traits into these important traits, then definitely this model is best suitable to understand that which person is best fitted for a particular job. Whereas, less important, strong oral communication, teamwork, flexibility or adaptability, enthusiasm or listening skills. These are less important traits which are not required for a particular job profile, and it can help us to filter out that which trait is more appropriate for which kind of jobs. So, this is the applicability of the big 5 personality model where to fit in, that is very important. So, ultimately qualifications are similar, but behavioral traits are differing from one person to another. How to filter out these traits? These kind of frameworks will help the HR and OB professionals to understand and then find the best person job fit. The next is model of how big 5 traits influence OB criteria and why it is relevant and how does it affect. Effect here is that how, to what extent the person feels at work. So, if we talk about emotional stability, it is relevant because it fosters reduced negative thinking, there are few negative emotions and people are less hyper vigilant. And how does it affect? It affects higher job and life satisfaction and lower stress levels. The more you are able to understand one's and others emotions, the more you are able to stabilize with the emotions and you will experience satisfaction in life and at work. The other is extroversion. Extroversion will help or lead to better interpersonal skills, more social dominance, and they are more emotionally expressive and at the same time they are stable also, which leads to higher performance, enhanced leadership and high job and life satisfaction. If it is about openness, there is more increased learning because more change is there. So, the more the person has to adapt to changes and requires lot of learning. More creative the person is, he will come up with more ideas and there is more flexibility and autonomy in an individual's work, because the more the person is open, the more he will receive changes in a very positive manner. And how it impacts the job? The training performance is very high. There is enhanced leadership because leader is not only to control or monitor, the leader has to accept the changes or innovativeness from the employees at the same time, and there is more adaptability to change. Agreeableness, he or she as an employee is liked by the other people, they are more compliant and conforming. Now, here conforming means that the leader has announced something and the employee has the ability to accept that announcement. This leads to higher performance, lower levels of deviant behaviors. Deviant behaviors means to sabotage or to indulge in sabotage, tarnishing the image of the organization or the employee, misusing the property of the organization, or bullying or indulging in the act of harassment and humiliation. And the last is conscientiousness. There is greater effort and persistence, the person is driven and he is more disciplined and target oriented and he is more organized and planning. So, ultimately what is the impact on an individual's job? There is high performance, there is enhanced leadership and there is greater longevity. Longevity here means that the person will stay with the organization for a longer period of time. So, the point of discussion is that when we are talking about these big 5 traits, it is not only that we are just identifying every employee based on the personality traits they have, whether high or low. The point of the discussion is that when we are identifying these personality traits, they are not only enhancing the job or the job profile, but actually it has proven impact on oneself and organization. This is an interplay of organization, employees and exclusively personality of employees. So, when they all three are being weaved together, they will create a positive picture of the organization. Now, this is an example of Andrea Young. She is CEO of A1, a cosmetic company, and the point is that this person, Andrea Young, has scored high on all personality dimensions of Big 5 model, and how she has used those traits to take the organization or so called company to another heights. So, she was found to be extremely sociable, agreeable, conscious, emotionally stable and open to experience, and these personality traits have contributed to high performance and career success. So, after joining A1 in 1994, this led to a dramatic turnaround of a company which had a very poor image and slow growth to the world's topmost cosmetic company and leading direct sales brand. Now, if we talk about today's present scenario, there are n number of cosmetic companies. You name and it is endless, the list is endless. But how these personality traits have assisted organizations to make turnaround changes and at the same time competing with the global market. So, she transformed A1 by developing and executing growth strategies. When we are talking about at high level about growth strategies, then definitely it is not about qualification. Using this qualification in combination with your personality traits, that will help the organization to move ahead, and launching new brand initiatives and developing earning opportunities for women worldwide. So, this is about strategizing based on your personality traits. You are using your personality traits for more productive work at workplaces. Now, if we talk about this example only, that developing earning opportunities for women worldwide, then actually it means that the person Andrea Young was more open to change. She was highly extroverted, how to reach out to a specific segment of society, that is women, that to enable them to take charge of their own life and then creating opportunities to earn or to grow. But how she must have done it? She must have executed a long strategy to reach every common women in the society, and how she created or expanded the sale of the brand while creating opportunities for women to earn money. So, this is the significance of personality traits when we talk about organizational behavior. How to find the best fit between the employee and the employer, and between job and an employee. This is how it is done. So, we can conclude that the personality factors identified by the Big 5 personality model appear in almost all cross-cultural studies. These studies have included a wide variety of diverse cultures such as China, Israel, Germany, Japan, Spain, Nigeria, Norway and United States. The Big 5 appear to predict a bit better in individualistic than in collectivist cultures. In collectivist cultures, people tend to move in groups, and when people are moving in groups, that means people are similar to each other. They will reflect similar personality traits and they will move ahead in their own way for their own common objective. But if we talk about individualistic cultures, people are on their own, they have their own idea to work and they have their own personality to align with their work. It is more difficult to identify people with different personality traits in collectivist cultures in comparison to individualistic cultures. And last, it is important to note that the Big 5 model may have limitations when applied to the study of personalities in small and remote groups, providing a balanced view of this applicability. Obviously, people working in remote areas, we find it difficult to approach people. There will be less number of people as a sample to identify, filter different personality traits and then executing policies or strategies that how to find the best person job fit. So, this can be a limitation at the same time, but the most important aspect of this model, the Big 5 personality model, is that it becomes easy for organizations to fit people into jobs based on their personality. This is just for your understanding that how the Big 5 inventory helps to identify people as a continuum. This is a scale with items with 22 items. A proper scaling is being done, scoring instructions are being given, and which item represents extraversion, which item represents agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism and openness. People would score their intensity of particular trait from 1 to 5. It is a 5-point scale, from 1 as the lowest scale of disagree to strongly disagree, and the highest score will be strongly agree. So, people tend to identify themselves on this scale for every particular trait, that is extraversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism and openness, and how they tend to identify themselves. We can easily use these scales for our own understanding as well with all the scorings, and that is how companies, organizations tend to execute this model in personality determination of employees. Now, this also constitutes that when we are using this model, it is also for competency or mapping competency, that which person and personality will be more competent to perform a particular task. So, that is how we tend to make personality assessment more systematic and organized in nature. It is not a layman understanding when it comes to applicability of personality frameworks at work. So, this is what we have discussed about the Big 5 personality model. We will continue to have more discussions pertaining to personality, and we will talk about another new framework, a novel concept of personality but maybe in the next session. Thank you so much.